G54 and X0, Y0 on the hospital machine at Home Community College. When you come up to the machine, we hit reset because we had a couple of error messages. We hit power up restart, the machine goes all the way out in X, all the way out in Y, all the way out in Z. And we also have to hit our cycle start safety switch and make sure that that's in there. We'll come into the MDI, DNC mode, and jog mode in the 100 thousandths. I'll bring my Z axis down a little bit. I'll go into X. I'll jog my machine in X over to where I want to put my previously placed X mark. I'll come over in Y. Then I'll come down in Z minus. When I start to run these machines and you start to come down in Z, you need to be like a baby because it's so easy to just drive the cutter right through the work. If you're not used to the machine, after you're done using it, it keeps moving on its own. So here I'm jogging the machine slowly like a baby, and I'll move over my X and my Y value, and then I'll bring my Z value down, minus. And what's interesting about the Haas machine, it doesn't matter if you press Z minus or Z minus plus and you go the other way with the dial, it'll still work that way. So I'm just going to say I'm close to my values that I want. I'm going to call this 0 after I bring my cutter down in Z and do the process called touching off. You can see I have a sheet of paper in here. I'm bringing the paper out with a 3/1000 paper so it slides out. And now I'm 3/1000 away from the piece. As I bring my cutter down, it grabs, and without cutting the paper, I know I'm 3/1000 away from the work right now. Knowing that, I want to go into two menus. So that's going to be the center of my programmed workpiece. First, I'm going to go into my work 0 offset by pressing the offset button. I'm going to page down to my G54, and I'm going to press a button called Part 0 Set once. Press it again, once for X, once for Y, but not for Z. The Z value is set in the tool offset menu. You press the offset button again, you come up to the tool offset menu. When you come up to the tool offset menu, because my Z is right here, I need to say tool offset measure. I press that button once, it puts in a number. Now I have a number for my X and Y G54, and I have a number for my G43 offset. When I say G54, to pull up these two offsets and bring the machine from X0, Y0 to here. The 12 inches, 12.9 in X, the 4 in Y, and the 9 in Z is the distance away from machine home. But you can't go there just by putting in an X0, Y0. You can't go there by putting in a G54. You have to put in a G54, X0, Y0 to get there. Once we do that, I can hit power up restart again. Now the machine knows where my X0 and Y0 offsets are, and I placed them in there with part 0 set, offset for X and Y, and offset and part tool offset measure. Now, the one thing that I did not do was use the origin button. And typically, I'll use the origin button to clean out all the offsets. And the reason why I'm doing the clean out for all the offsets is that if there's an offset on another page, in one class, one time, someone had an offset G159 or whatever, they called up that offset plus their offset and drove the cutter right through the middle of the piece. So when you hit origin, it cleans out all the offsets, and in the future classes, we'll do it that way. But for this class right now, you can see I'm at 0, 0, 0. That's the machine position, and the other position is the program position. I now press the button called Manual Data Input Direct Numerical Control, MDI DNC. I have a blank screen up here, and the first thing I want to do, actually the last thing I'm going to do is write the program number. What I'm going to write first is a G90. I'm just going to simply say G90, end of block, right enter. That's my first line of code. Who can tell me what my second line of code would be if I was to load a tool? What would I say for tool?
M06.
M06, M06, which is a miscellaneous code for tool change. And then what?
Tool number. Tool number.
Tool 01, end of block, right enter. And that brings us right down here. Now, when you load a tool, consistently, what do you want to load right after that tool?
Spindle speed.
G54, I'm sorry, G43, and an H01. And what you want to load is
Offset.
right enter. You put the tool in, you put the offset in. Always sequentially, tool, offset, and you won't worry about it. The one time you don't do it, you might not have an offset, and it might pick up a 0 number and go crazy on you. So I think you'll be okay with the M06, the T01, the G43, H01. Now we want to turn the spindle on. So we say spindle 1200, right? Now which direction are we going to go? MO3 or MO2?
MO3.
MO3. And why would we do that?
Clockwise.
MO3, right enter, clockwise. Okay, now we've got the machine, but we want to bring it down to G54, X0, Y0, correct? But before I do that, I don't want to go with a rapid. I want to go with a G01, and I want to go with a feed rate or an F of, let's say, 15 inches a minute, point. I'll say end of block, right enter. Now, I'm turning my machine on, and my next move will be G01, 15 inches a minute. For purposes of the class, what I want to do is add an end of block after my MO3 and say right enter. That just brings my code down, so I only have one thing on a line. Many classes, many students like to write 10 or 12 pieces of code on one line. For the beginning, when you're first learning it, write one line on one line on one line, and it's easier to follow. After you get experience, you've been doing it for a year or two, 6 months, 5 months, then you can have multiple codes on multiple lines as long as they're not conflicting. A conflicting code is a G01, G02 in the same line. The machine doesn't know if you want a straight line or a curved line, and it'll stop. But it won't tell you why it stopped, it just won't run. So that's called a conflicting code. Now my cursor is up here because I just added another line, so I'll bring it down. You can also use your dial to dial up or down as you're writing a program. So I'll be right here, and my next code is going to be a G, what? 54, X0, Y0, end of block, and my next code after that is going to be a Z. A Z, we're going to go to 0.5, end of block, right enter. So what I'm trying to do here is I set up the tool change, offset, we've got the cutter running, we've got a G01 at 15 inches a minute, so how fast are we going to move? See, these are all preparation for the program. G54, X0, Y0, now we've got a Z.5. Now what do we want to do?
The depth, how far you want to...
We didn't do that yet.
I know, right.
So I'm just gonna say, okay, go to the top of data by saying home, and I'm gonna say run this, but I'm gonna run it on a single block because this is the first time I'm running a program. I'm new to the school, I'm new to the machine, and I want to be extra safe. So I pressed a single block button. That means every time I see a line of code, I'm gonna have to press a button. Warming the machine is cold, no problem. It says press cancel, find the cancel key, and you know where it's 70 degrees in here, so it's not a problem. Single block, MO6, T1. It knows it's got tool 1 in there. Now it's got the offset in there. Now it's got the speed in, and it'll execute that code. Now the machine's running at 1200 inches a minute, and we're going to go G54, X0, Y0. When I press this, it's going to go over there first, then it'll come down to a half inch and 15 inches a minute. I'll rehome the machine, and then we'll start to do the program that I discussed in class, and we'll actually do the program, which is going to be very close to your final exam. And if you understand this and are able to get to it on the Sky Drive that I'll tell you about, you can listen to it, but you can't see it, but you can listen to it over and over again. And hopefully you'll be able to follow the program that you have with your cell phone, as well as follow that. Now, for the purposes of this demonstration, we're just going to go kind of slow, 15 inches a minute. There are buttons on the machine. We're going 250 times that, and you can see that the machine's going a little bit faster. Then we can go back to 100% feed rate, 100% of spindle. We'll press cycle start, and it'll come down to Z, half inch above the part. This is the fundamental CNC Essentials class block. This lesson, these few minutes, are absolutely paramount to you going on in this school. And if you have problems, let's get to talk to me again. I'll do the lesson again. We'll talk about specific problems on getting the machine to this point. This is the fundamentals. And it's like we've had a lot of questions in class about how to use cruise control. Well, we need to drive the car first before we put cruise control on. So this is learning how to drive the car, and we're roughly a ½ inch above the park. Okay, so if I say stop, and I say G28, power up, restart, I'm in single block, I'll take it off a single block. I hit reset, then I hit power up, restart. It takes me out of the program, it brings me back to where I was. Now we're going to start to do some thinking. If I'm here at a ½ inch, the next move, I'm going to bring it down, and I'm going to actually plunge. I'm not going to plunge, I'm going to bring it down on top of the piece. Okay? So if we would, we'll get out of single block by hitting the button the second time. We'll go back to this menu, which is the MDI menu, manual data input. I'll come to the end of here, and my next programmed line in absolute G90 mode is going to be Z0. Z0 point, end of block, right enter. So the machine's going to go down a ½ inch, right on top of the piece. Now I want to move over an inch outside the piece. So from where I'm at, if I'm here in the piece, which is in the middle, and I want to move over, what would that X be? X what? Anybody know?
X minus
X minus
1.0,
1.0, end of block, right enter. So we're going to go from here to here. Now we want to go into Y, but let's go 3/4 of an inch in Y, because I've got a ½ inch cutter. I don't want to go off the piece, but we could. We're going to say Y, positive 3/4 of an inch, right? 0.75, and let's say Z minus 0.010, right enter. My next move is going to be,
okay,
right? Now incremental or absolute? Where's it going to go?
incremental, no, absolute.
We've got some interesting questions. Do we want to put an incremental line in here and do incremental programming within an absolute program?
Confusing.
There's different ways to do it. The way that the majority of the people do it is that everything is absolute.
Okay.
And 99% or 95% of all programs are absolute. For ease of programming, I'm going to come over here, and it's not industrial practice. I'm going to add a line that's going to say G91, end of block, right enter. Now I'm going from an absolute incremental program to an absolute program. X minus 1. Do I want to do that?
G91? Isn't that incremental? Isn't that incremental?
It's incremental.
Yes,
Do I want to
yes.
do that? Huh?
Your call.
You can, or you can go absolute.
Okay. And when we're there, where is it going to go?
It's gonna go X.
It's going to go Y, 0.75, and Z down. Then I just want to go X from this move. What do we want to do? We want to go X what?
How long you gonna make it? You said 3/4.
Let's go 1.5. 1.5, end of block, right enter. And then from there we want to come back Y. Y what? Y minus 0.75. Right enter. And then we want to go back in X 1.5 minus. X minus 1.5, end of block, right enter. Okay, so now basically we went from here, over, up, out, down, and over, correct? We still didn't go back up.
Right.
You can do that. What would the up move be?
It's gonna be a X.
No, it's going to be a Y.
Y. Oh yeah, Y. Excuse me. Y. Yep. Y. Y negative.
So that's half your square, right? That's a half a square.
That's a ½ a square. And we got a ½ inch cutter, so it's going to look real tiny. Y minus what?
You want to go back up. You want to go back up 3/4, right?
Okay, let's just put in that number and see what happens. Y, not 75, but 0.75, right enter. Okay, at that point, if I want to go G28, can I stop the spindle? Stopping the spindle is an M05. M05, right enter. End of block, right enter. That'll stop the spindle. Now what's going to bring it back home? G28. End of block, right enter. So we stopped the spindle, we brought it back home. Now, we can press the home button and we've got the top of the line of code. And we've written 15 or 20 lines of code. And at a college, this is kind of similar to any college anywhere in the world. If you're going to take an NC class in any language in the world, the only question is going to be inch or metric, incremental or absolute. Everything else is the same. All right? So if we're at this point, we've got our code. There's a secret button that I haven't shown you yet. I'm going to show you today now for the purposes of this. Setting graph. You hit it twice. And when you hit the setting graph button twice, this is now blue. The MDI screen is blue. This screen is white. When you press the button, we just have a program run. It went real fast, didn't it? What you can do is you can say F3 slower, press the button again. It just ran, but it ran slower. And we can also zoom up on this. F2 is zoom, and these cursor keys here will zoom the box, make it bigger, smaller, left and right. And you can see how I just kind of went on that. And we can go bigger and smaller. And you can see how I'm collapsing the size of the picture. And I'm going to say rerun this. It reran it. I'm going to come out of setting graph, hit the button twice, come back into setting graph, and it ran the program again, but it ran it off the screen because I didn't set this right. When you say F2, zoom, I didn't have it in the right spot for the program. Come back to home, I can come back to home. I'm going to go back into my MDI screen. I'm going to go to top of data by hitting the home button. I'm at the top of data. I saw what's going to happen. I'm still going to go single block. I'm going to turn the machine on and run the machine program by program. Load the tool, load the offset, turn the spindle on clockwise, go GO1, which is a linear move at 15 inches a minute, go to X0, Y0, and we'll run this simple program. We should be able to cut a square block in this program, in this school, in the introductory class, which is AT AP 1050.
Right.
And you're all, at this point in the class, at 6 or 7 weeks into the class, experienced to the point where you understand all of the points that I'm doing. All of this vocabulary is not new vocabulary. You've heard it before, you've used it before, but there was some questions asked, and students asked to review the process of how to set G54 X0, Y0.
Alright, so the set and graph button is to see the program run.
Set and graph, you hit it twice.
Right. To see the program run through on the screen.
Yes.
Okay.
But right now we're running the program in single block mode. We got it X0, Y0. We've only got 10 or 15 lines of code, so it's not a big deal. And when you first move out your program, you're cutting Renwood. I would do this just to be sure with your center drills. So now I'm going to come down to 0.5, and then I'm going to come down to 0, and then we're going to move over X minus 1. Everyone's got safety glasses on, everyone's got their hair tucked in their shoulders, and we're all in a safe mode. Press the cycle start, we'll come down to 0, we're pretty close. Now I expect the machine to move over 1 inch in X. Now we programmed to the center of the cutter. We did not take into consideration cutter diameter compensation, but we did cutter height compensation, which is the G43. The next move is going to do what?
Well,
we're just going to go up 3/4 of an inch. You can hear it cutting. Now we're going to go over an X. Then we're going to come down to Y. And then we're going to go over an X 1.5. And like you said, this is only half a box. And at the end of that, we went the wrong way with the cutter. Can you see what we did?
Yeah.
But in Renwood, nothing lost. Now at the end, with MO5, shut off the cutter, and then bring it back home G28. So we wrote a program, and we were so confident that we were right, but at the last line of code, we went the wrong way with Y. We went Y negative, and we should have been Y positive. So let's correct that we can, while we're in the MDI mode, come right down to here. There's two ways to correct this. One is the alter, and we can say y minus, no, y, we don't want the minus. We want a y plus 0.75, correct? Now we put that in and we've got them both there, don't we? So we come back and we just say delete. Now we've got that fixed, correct? What do you think?
I got it on camera right now. Yeah.
So if we were to run this program again,
Yeah, come on.
go into MDI. See, right now we're in single block stop. We have to get out of that. The program's running, it's locked up. Now we're in MDI, hit the home, comes to the top. We can run this, and we're just going to run it without single block stop now. We're going to make one more edit in Z. We're going to come down about 5 or 10 more thousandths. We're running a carbide cutter. The only problem with the carbide, we should be running 4 times the speed of high-speed steel. Since this is Renwood, I know the cutter is dull. I'm using it for a demonstration rather than throw away the cutter. I would rather use a dull cutter for demonstration than throw it away. Okay, now at the end of this lesson, are there any questions that you have of me or the lesson? Okay, we're going to put this up on the SkyDrive so that you can listen to it at a later date and put your words together with the actual video that you took and listen to it over and over again. This is fundamental to the final exam in this class. Thank you all at Macomb Community College for listening to the AT AP 1050 How to Set X0 and Y0.
Thank you.
Whatever you need, you got it. What's your question?
My bad.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right.
He would program it that way. You would program it that way. But all the novices that cannot work on the machine, bring it down in the afternoon. Make sure you know where you're at. Then bring it down. Why? Because we're going to forget this G01. You're going to have a rapid. Gary's going to hear, bam! God, I told you not to have him use rapid. That's the first note. Gary got it But the students, sometimes, if you leave the G01 out, what does it do? Now, isn't this better than doing this in the classroom?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All day long. Now, whoever wants to put this up on YouTube, I will give extra credit points. 5 extra credit points on your final exam. No matter what your score is, you just got 5 points more.
What's my name?
What?
What's my name? How you gonna give me 5 extra points?
Only the program.
It's good.
Got my phone. You see.
I'm gonna take a picture of it. So.
Yeah, my phone is dead.